The session here was designated as books are the basis. How many of you were present in the plenary session that just happened upstairs? The plenary session, the session upstairs, the plenary. Okay. I basically gave a presentation on books are the basis there. I just did. I'm going to quickly go through the slides. You'll get a very quick idea of what it is. I'm going to divide this session into two parts. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, this side. This side. I'm going to divide it into two parts. I have two services for ISKCON. I have a few, but two that I would like to speak about. The first, I'm speaking to you in my capacity as a service of Ministry of Education. I serve as a minister for Ministry of Education. The session, Books Are the Basis, that I presented upstairs, emphasizes on reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Every member should read it. And its impact on our individual life and the institution. The second service that I have that I like to introduce and talk about is that I also serve as a GBC member, and I have a responsibility towards expanding our movement in the Islamic and Arabic countries of the Middle East, which starts all the way, if you start from the west, from Mauritania. Probably many of you have not even heard the name of the country called Mauritania. Very risky place. There was a plane hijacked, a French plane moving out of there a few years ago. Mauritania, you move up, you go to Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, Libya, Egypt. All fantastic places. A lot of tradition. They've had thousands of years of history, but very troubled. Move further east, north, you go to countries like Jordan, Syria, like that. So I also have that service, which was assigned to me as a GBC member, and I would like to share something about that service and take your help as well, because we want to expand Krishna consciousness into these countries. They're very difficult countries. Right? So those are the two parts. Now, I would like to hear from you. Hare Krishna. I'd like to hear from you. How much time would you like me to spend on the Books Are the Basis presentation that I already gave upstairs? I can take some comments, questions. And how much time you'd like me to talk about preaching and developing Krishna consciousness in ISKCON in the Islamic and Arabic countries? Any preferences? First, so it's not a choice. I will be covering both the topics. The first topic is about reading Srila Prabhupada's books. And the second topic is about establishing ISKCON and Krishna consciousness in the Arabic and Islamic countries. I have altogether, about 45 minutes? 40 minutes, I think. So we split about 20 minutes in each. Right. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Maharaj, Mataji, welcome. We have another GBC member with us. We have Maharaj with us. We have the 3 photos of Sri Panchatattva with us. Srila Prabhupada, we are empowered. Maharaj, thank you. So, the reason I decided, when they were discussing in the plenary, I told Devakinandan Prabhu, the MC, please announce that I'm going to start discussing about preaching and expansion of Krishna consciousness in Islamic and Arabic countries, because I've just given this presentation. So a lot of these slides are self-explanatory. How many of you were not in the plenary? I know that Srila Prabhupada's disciple here, she was not here. You were not in the plenary, you were not in the plenary, you were not in the plenary, you were not in the plenary. Okay, so 4 devotees were not there, others were present. So I would be in favor to just quickly run through this. And if you have any questions or comments, we can do that. Very simple model. If you want to keep ISKCON united, it must be done on the basis of Srila Prabhupada's books. A common understanding can only arise. We can move up from dissension, which is a characteristic of lower modes of nature. The lower modes of nature create fight, dissension, arguments. But if we take shelter of Srila Bhaktivedanta purports every day, then we rise in our consciousness, and even the most difficult problems can be solved. For us, books are the basis. We conduct these various examinations so that all of you can receive the benediction of Srila Prabhupada's instruction. Srila Prabhupada wanted all of his sons and daughters to become Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Sarvabhauma, and for us to carry those titles with a lot of pride. And that is the house. We typically talk about the house that Srila Prabhupada built in which everybody can live. So there are 2 kinds of houses. One house is in which people are living but fighting. But there's another house in which everybody is living happily together. Which one do we prefer? Who prefers the happy house? Who prefers the house where there are a lot of problems? I believe those of you who did not raise your hands, or probably there are those who don't want to live in the house anymore. They want to live outside. Okay. The only way we can live in this house if we take shelter of Srila Prabhupada's books. It may sound very pedantic. It may sound, no, this is not going to happen. Try it. Try it. If you are a brahmachari and you have problems in your brahmachari ashram, start reading Srila Prabhupada's books every day with all the brahmacharis. Just do it for 1 month without stop. If you're a householder and you have problems in your house with your wife, your husband, your children, start reading Prabhupada's books in front of your altar every day. Just 1 month. Try it out. You'll see the difference. If you're wondering whether, you should still remain in ISKCON, whether it's really worth it, I have so much problems, nobody takes care of me, my manager doesn't like me, blah, 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 all of these things come to your mind, take shelter of Srila Prabhupada's books for 1 month, incessantly. Our lives will get transformed. So Srila Prabhupada gave this instruction. He told everybody, books are the basis. We keep using this phrase. Srila Prabhupada explained why they are. This was in 1976. We have almost around 80 direct instructions from Srila Prabhupada available on Ministry of Education website, where he explains, gives direct instructions that you should read every day. Half an hour, 1 hour. He's telling his disciples, who are very busy. His disciples, if somebody complains now today in ISKCON, life is very busy, some of Prabhupada's disciples are present here, ask them. Then you'll understand what is busyness. They had no rest. They had no rest. Now if the temple president is giving us 4 hours, 5 hours of service, we're counting, Prabhu, you're giving me 4 hours of service. This devotee does only 5 hours, 3 hours. Why this difference? Devotees did not sleep at that point in time, very less. Every day working very hard. That was the mission. Even then Srila Prabhupada said you should read every day. After he established the foundation of distributing books, then he says, now start reading. Ministry of Education was personally established by Srila Prabhupada in 1976, only 5 ministries. This is one of them. It became completely quiet, dead, no existence. 2019, when I first got involved, took up the service as a minister in 2020, co-minister. But before that, when I first got involved, I went to the website of the Ministry of Education. Can you guess what was on the home page? On the home page was a news article. You know what news is? News essentially means something which is very recent, like today's news. Everybody likes to open their phone, see what's today's news. I opened the news on ISKCON's Ministry of Education website. The news in 2019 was an announcement from 2012 that today we are meeting in Radhadesh. So I was just wondering what happened between 2012 and 2019, no other news. So that's the kind of state the ministry was in. Most people, if you ask Ministry of Education, they ask you, what do you mean? You are part of Mayapur Institute, you are part of this institute, that institute. Nobody knows, nobody knew, because nothing was happening. But this was an essential ministry that Srila Prabhupada wanted. Srila Prabhupada was a visionary. Such a visionary that it will take us lifetimes to figure out how far he thought. Money, education, records, development. But his core, he said, are my books and education. If ISKCON has to be summarized, what is the purpose of ISKCON? Summarized in one word, education. Whether it's a Bhagavatam class, whether it's a Bhagavad Gita class, whether it's a preaching, whether it's a teaching, whatever we do, we are trying to just educate in the principles of Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada wanted that. Our vision, and I shared it upstairs, is to make Srila Prabhupada's books the most widely read spiritual literature in the world. And you all have to participate in this. It will take a lot of effort. We have the top philosophy. Top philosophy. How many of us here believe that we have the topmost philosophy? Really? Then why is it that our books are not the most widely read books in the world? Any response to that? Because we don't have enthusiasm to serve. Okay? Any other thoughts? Yes? We do not have teachers. Okay? And? We are still a very young movement. How young are we? Correct. That's true. We are still a very young movement. And what do you do when somebody is very young? You give them right samskaras. Correct? You give them right impressions. If a young child is addicted to money, toys, when he grows up, do you think he's going to be focused on education? So, good point, we are young. And that's why it's very, very necessary that this generation, before Srila Prabhupada's disciples leave, we all get our act together and we focus entirely on education. First 25 years of any child's life is dedicated for education. So that 25 years in terms of institution and religious organization can be in the span of 2000 years. So we really have to focus on that. But it's a problem we have to solve. The problem is Srila Prabhupada's books today are still not the most widely read spiritual literature in the world. It should become. That's when Srila Prabhupada will be happy. That's what he wanted. He wanted transformation of the world. Let's move forward. Our vision, the ministry's vision, that we want every temple to be an educational center, every brahmana to be a teacher. To be a teacher. And every devotee, every member to read every day. It's a very simple principle. Nothing complicated. You can read one para, you can read one page, 10 pages, 40 pages. If you cannot read, we now have complete Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam available for you. You can hear, you can watch, along with the purports in English. Nicely recorded. If you're a working person, in a sense that you go out for work, you don't have time to open the book, but take shelter of Srila Prabhupada's Vani. That's what we like to happen. And you are all leaders. If you set a nice example, you can do it. Our service since 2022, this slide is still incorrect. It's not the presentation I made in the morning. It's from a little bit earlier. Anyways, we've done several symposiums. We have 3 annual global festivals, a lot of interviews that are being conducted. We have for you TED Talk style podcasts. We are publishing every day short videos, 2 minutes, which you can register for. And we've also published a conscious reading book, which was written by Devaki Nandan Prabhu, who just received now his GBC college graduation from. So all of these resources are available for you to take help from. Because a lot of times leaders, they don't have time. And they want to inspire the community, but they don't know what to do. So one is reading, but they also want the devotee community to see other leaders. So these 110 interviews, these small snippets, you can just simply play, give it to your community members. Because then they'll get inspired by a wide variety of leaders from around the world. So you can do that. All of this is available to you. This was all produced in the last 3 years. I also want to share with you that Srila Prabhupada, after everybody starts to read Srila Prabhupada's books regularly, it's a natural step in one's life. Srila Prabhupada said the natural thing is you want to get the title. Title not for the sake of becoming proud, but to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's desire. Srila Prabhupada wanted everybody to have these titles. So currently, the most popular programs in ISKCON are Bhakti Shastri and Bhakti Vaibhav. From 1995 to 2020, first of all, I step back. The first time this examination was conducted in 1977 by Srila Prabhupada himself. He conducted the examination in Mayapur. And few of his disciples took the exam. But after that, this examination did not happen for many, many years. 1995, the records, we started keeping some records. Ministry, namely Bhakta Rupa Prabhu, worked very hard towards it to make those records. And from 1995 to 2020, a period of 25 years, we got, this is the statistics, only 8,700 devotees in ISKCON became Bhakti Shastri. So when you look at 2020, you're easily looking at probably about 10 lakhs, we call in India lakhs, about 1 million people involved in our temples and around the world as members, Out of that, at least about, say, 50 to 60,000, 80,000 more active participants, but only 8,700 have the Bhakti Shastri title, and 240 Bhakti Vaibhav. This is for 25 years. The ministry, for all these programs that we started to encourage devotees to read Prabhupada's books, the natural outcome is devotees went ahead and took these examinations. In just 3 years, we doubled the number of Bhakti Shastris in ISKCON from 8,700 to 17,000 in just 3 years. We also doubled the number of Bhakti Vaibhav students. And our goal is that we want to reach at least 100,000 Bhakti Shastris in the next 10 years. Our initial goal in 2020, I was sharing upstairs. In 2020, I knew that there are 8,700 Bhakti Shastris, and we had an aspiration. We thought in 5 years, we want to double it. By Srila Prabhupada's mercy, Krishna's mercy, all of your blessings, we were able to do it in 3 years. So now we can think bigger. And now we want to get to 100,000 Bhakti Shastris. Can you imagine the impact in this world if 100,000 devotees have sincerely read Prabhupada's books, and out of them they're going out and teaching scriptures. Can you even imagine what's going to happen? It's going to be phenomenal. That is what is going to create a transformation in this world. You know, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I am a big proponent. Yes, we should have a lot of temples, we should have a lot of establishments. It's necessary. It's necessary. But if you go back in history, and some of the senior devotees here will share with me, does anybody remember what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said about the Bada temple, the big temple in Calcutta?
So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj made a very powerful statement. If I get a chance, I'll sell this marble of Bhakt temple, then print books and distribute the books. A very, very powerful statement. Without education, having temples is a big headache. And the deities will be what? Garagraha, pain in the neck. Prabhupada said this. Without Bhagavatam, we can't worship deities. If you try to worship deities without Bhagavatam, it's a pain in the neck. Why is this deities my Guru Maharaj gave? Such a headache it is. Hare Krishna.
So we have to keep things in perspective. The temple's main purpose is to provide education. And that is what is going to create transformation. We are now changing, as the demographics of this movement are also changing. Around the world, mostly devotees are living outside of the temple, they're serving, etc. And they need to be educated. So let's move forward. Our offering to our leaders, we have now the summative exam, one-time exam, just like in 1977. Now you can write both Bhakti Shastri and Bhakti Vaibhav. This is meant for devotees who are reading Prabhupada's books regularly. And you should have good sadhana, you should be a preacher, and you've been reading, then you can write this exam. Okay? And you normally, even if you don't have time, you can study at your own place. We'll give questions, 50 questions that you have to answer are already there on the website. So it's all, in some way you can download it, practice it. And then when we give you the exam, we will select 20 questions, out of which you only have to answer 8 questions in 4 hours. You get 4 hours to answer only 8 questions. And that's it. In a few days, you will become a Bhakti Shastri. Now the ministry has a digital system. We have, for the first time, digitized all the records. So if somebody gives you certificates, tell him, where is my unique ID? Where is my license number? Every certificate comes with a unique ID. It is registered with the ministry records. The moment you write this exam, or you get a certificate from another institute, they're published from the ministry, you can download them, you can print them, and in the future, 50 years, 100 years, 5 years, 5 days afterwards, somebody wants to check if you're a Bhakti Shastri, they can simply go on the website and check. You can give your unique ID code, license number to any leader or any institute, and they can check your qualifications. So this has been simplified. You can take advantage of it. I request you all to please read every day. I want you to encourage everybody in your community to read every day. I want you to celebrate our annual festival. This year, from 30th of September to 6th of October, is the Books Are the Basis Festival. Celebrate it like the Kirtan Week, etc. Inspire everybody in your temple. Your leaders, bring them in, read with them, encourage them, give them a seminar on the importance. We will send you all the material. We have prepared very nicely all of Srila Prabhupada's beautiful instructions on this matter. Very powerful. Starting from all the way from 1969 to 1977, 68 actually, to 1977, letters, etc., where he requests his disciples to read. You can take that, you can have seminars around it. We have now so much. If you go to our Ministry of Education, ISKCON Ministry of Education YouTube channel, you have plenty of video resources that throughout the year you can celebrate. how to read Srila Prabhupada's books. Please connect with the ministry. You can go to our website. There is an email address. There are cards here. You can take those cards and various ways to connect with the ministry. Our booth is there. If you love Srila Prabhupada's books, please go to our booth and just give 3 or 4 minutes of your time. We have 400 inspirational videos, 2 minutes each, from all over the world. We want to add your words also. Make your offering to Srila Prabhupada for the love that you have. Just 2 minutes, our team is set up in that booth. They will record you. You can share your love there for Prabhupada's books. So you can please help us do that. I'm going to pause here if you have any comments, questions on this section. And then in a few minutes, I'll move to the next section of my service, which is Islamic and Arabic country preaching. Yes, Prabhu. So Prabhu's question is, there are a lot of services and our mind is cheating and is not allowing us to read Prabhupada's books. So what should we tell the mind? Does anybody remember what is the trick for the mind? It's a fairly harsh trick. If you understand Bhagavatam, transcendental psychology or Vedic psychology, it is the nature of the mind to move from between many things. The Vedanta psychology describes. So it's not a problem. Child is playing, you cannot blame the child, why are you playing? It's the inherent constitution. Same way, please remember, the constitution of the mind is to keep jumping. That's how it's designed. And in order to control that, you have to take shelter of the intelligence. Intelligence which is sharpened by the sword of knowledge. Knowledge comes from taking shelter of Srila Prabhupada's books. Like nobody tells us when we're feeling weak, tired, that go and eat some food. Nobody tells us, right? It's a natural, we know that if you want to get the energy back, stand up on your feet. Somebody here has sugar or diabetes, their sugar goes down, they know they have to immediately sip something sweet. We are all in a state where our energy goes down every day. What is our sweet? Just try it. Just one time when you're feeling very low, open any page of Bhagavatam and just read. Guaranteed you'll get energized. Imagine a patient who's sick, falling very ill, his health is deteriorating, the medicine is next to him and is unwilling to take the medicine. What do? If you come across a patient like this around you, what will you do? You will open his mouth, Maharaj, and push it through his mouth. Exactly. So, you have to, if somebody is feeling like that around you in your community, you're a big manager and there are a lot of managers, just push the medicine of Prabhupada's books. That's the medicine they must take. Okay, any other comments? Yes? It's very nice you're hearing Prabhupada's lectures. It's necessary. Hear it. It's very important to take shelter of Srila Prabhupada's Vani. We are in this age, and you can see it yourself, we don't have the sharpened intelligence to just simply hear and absorb everything. When people are hearing, they're doing many things alongside. Swiping their phones, cleaning something, etc. But when you have to take a book in front of you, you are forced to focus all your attention on transcendental topic. You can't move your eyes away, right? So you can try and then you can give me the answer whether it's the same or not. Prabhupada's voice is very powerful. The only thing is whether our ears are powerful enough or not. Right? If we are very sharp, if we are focused, then yes, it will have an impact. But when you're hearing Srila Prabhupada's lectures on Bhagavad and Bhagavad Gita, you know what Prabhupada will say someplace in between? Read my books. So, when he gives that instruction, what are you going to do? You're going to move forward to the next lecture? So, there is a necessity for reading books. Often you see, our mind works in a way where we try to compare things. Which one is better? Which one should I do? Which one is better? Do both. Do both. All right, one last comment and then we'll move to the next section.
I have practiced in this myself only as Grihastha, but I notice there's a few would work for two brahmacharis too if they're not getting along well. If you get in some often very silly argument or upset, or if you just pick up a book, start to read, in 2 minutes it's totally gone. You don't even remember what it is. And it works for anybody. I mean, we all have emotions, we all sometimes, maybe most of us have a false ego. It just melts that away. You know, Prabhupada, gone.
She said, sometimes we have problems, husband, wife, in the house. Sometimes a false ego comes up, and many of us have that. And she said, her life experience is, just pick up Prabhupada's books, and in 2 minutes, the false ego just melts. This is after 50 years of practicing Krishna consciousness. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Hare Krishna. Please permit me to move to the next. So Prabhu's question is, we have Srila Prabhupada's books, but now so many other books are coming, and they're getting more and more popular. So Prabhu's question is, what should we do? Happening? Whether it's good or not? Okay. I get it. So a lot of books, what's its impact? What should we do? Again, our typical tendency is this or this, right? But it can be this and this. But even when you're doing this and this, I was joking with somebody. I said, anybody who publishes a book in ISKCON, anybody, the first page of the book should state, have you read Srila Prabhupada's books? Say yes or no. And if the answer is no, go back and read. Read all of Srila Prabhupada's books and then come to this. So if you come across an author in ISKCON, tell them, can you please put this in your book? See what happens when spiritual masters are writing books, gurus are writing books, influential personalities are writing books. It's natural that the disciples become attracted. But it is then the responsibility of those authors to encourage the readers to go back and read Prabhupada's books. So, as the Minister of Education of ISKCON, I cannot say anything else here. That is going to be our message. Read Prabhupada's books. There are so many other things. Now, if you go into a typical bookstall of a temple, you really have to look for Bhagavad Gita as it is. You have to look for where Bhagavatam is, where Chaitanya Charitamrita is, because there are hundreds of books. Hundreds of books. That's fine. Actually, Srila Prabhupada instructed his disciples and everybody to write books. So there's nothing wrong in that. But it will be wrong if we don't read Prabhupada's books. That's a judgment. We don't want to make a judgment whether they'll understand or not. But principle is very simple. Principle is, ISKCON temples must ensure that Srila Prabhupada's books are prominently there to be sold, to be distributed, and to be read. That's what we should do. And very simple formula. If the leaders are reading, Srila Prabhupada's books, what will everybody else read? Srila Prabhupada's books. That's all. Thank you. So I'm going to shift gears into another topic which is very dear. It's a service I have. And I feel so fortunate that we have leaders here who have been doing this service for much longer than me. And the service is to expand Krishna consciousness in Islamic and Arabic countries. Currently, we have very nice presence in 6 countries. 5-6 countries, we have very nice presence. This was done by a lot of effort, energy, sacrifice by many leaders of ISKCON, going all the way back to Tribhuvannath Prabhu in the 70s and so many others who took inspiration from Srila Prabhupada's instruction and started going to these Islamic countries. Then after that, many of Srila Prabhupada's disciples who are currently present here started to take risk and go and establish preaching there. So there are so many of them, so many of them. We have Jayapataka Maharaj here who spent so much time and energy in establishing, preaching there, going there year after year. We have also Kratu Maharaj here who goes there for at least 10 years now, 10 plus years. Yeah. So we're talking about the Gulf Cooperation or the GCC countries, 6 countries there. Right? But do you know that there are at least 19 more countries which are practically untouched? So those of you who came a little bit late, I gave the geography session on starting from Mauritania, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, Libya, Egypt, Eritrea, Sudan, go up, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, name it. How do these names appear typically in news? They appear as disturbed. Most of these countries have either had a civil war, or are in a civil war, or are on their way to a civil war. You know, that's one common criteria amongst all of these countries. They're very disturbed. Unfortunately, they have a huge tradition. Srila Prabhupada described to us in the Bhagavatam that how Lord Parshuram sent out the Kshatriyas, right? And where did the Kshatriyas settle? They settled in these parts of Europe and other parts, Russia, and they also spread. They spread. Some of these countries, the Egyptian Empire is probably in Western literature, the Egyptian history is considered one of the oldest history. Egyptian. But if you actually go further west, you go to Morocco, Tunisia, you'll find they have history running into thousands of years. America, Europe probably didn't even exist. This is what Srila Prabhupada describes in Bhagavatam. These were regions outside of the core, where core Varnashram was practiced. Outside of that, all of these regions were there. Now, there is a population of almost close to 800 million people residing in these countries. And they're prominent. Previously, if you go to Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, if you go to Iran, I went to Iran, and the oldest temple there, which has recorded archaeological records, or they've done a radioactive dating, is even more than what you see in Greece. If you go, you can see up to 5,000 old structure, architectural structure. In Iran, you have 7,000 year old in a city called Shiraz. And you know, it's very interesting. You go there, they have these relics, old broken structures. And the person who was taking me as a guide, I said, what is at the top of this? She says, now that in India they're known as Parsis, because they used to speak the language called Farsi. So she said, this is Azura Mazda. Okay, Azura Mazda. So I said, what is this? So she said, we don't know what it is. But if you look at it, it looks like a person sitting on the wings of a bird carrier. Right? And if you go a little bit on the left-hand side of that structure, there's a temple where they used to perform yagyas. So she told me, she said, we don't know what this is. I, of course, could not tell her that I know what it is. Because otherwise they'd probably put me in jail. So it was Lord Vishnu riding on Garuda. And then, of course, we know about invasions and history, and of course, I've studied history for my service, so we can go into all of that. But it's existed for time immemorial, the culture, the worship of Lord Vishnu. And somewhere out there, there's an opportunity to bring them back to Krishna consciousness. But it's very challenging. So, what we're trying to do now is, first of all, we're trying to find out how do we approach this problem. Our first step for solving this problem is to approach the students who come from these countries to study in another country. Because if you go into that country and you want to transform, all the best. It's very difficult at this stage because, they are very strong in the practice of the religion and they don't tolerate it. The word tolerance doesn't exist in their dictionary. Let me put it that way. Right? Do you know something? That in some of these countries, practically most of these countries, it's capital punishment by law. In the Constitution, if you change your religion from Islam to anything, you are to be hanged to death. So that's the scenario we're dealing with here. But we do have an opportunity. By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, the two things that Srila Prabhupada did was to establish temples around the world. These students are coming to our temples. And when they come to our temples, when our book distributors go on the streets, they can them. If you come in touch, or your friends who are temple presidents around the world, if they come in touch with somebody who belongs to this culture or background, please put us in touch with them. We're looking for that one devotee, one person who can create another Russia. Because Srila Prabhupada did that. He just convinced one person, and that person then established the whole movement. So far, I've tried to reach out to the temple presidents I know, the communities that I know, and I've come in touch with approximately 25 people who are at different stages of their Krishna conscious life. Some are just chanting a little bit, some are reading Prabhupada's books, but they either speak Arabic or they come from a background where their parents were from these countries. So we are now putting together a platform, a Sanga, where we're going to bring them all together. We're going to read Prabhupada's books with them, have kirtan with them online to begin with. The second thing we are doing is we're working with BBT for Arabic books, for Farsi books, so that we can print them and we can distribute them. Here is a sample set. A lot of students from these parts of the world, if they want to do something better in life, they leave their countries. They go to Europe, they go to United States. Some of them even come to India if they're not very wealthy. And they come to universities. And in universities, if they get Srila Prabhupada's books, we want to have a system that they can then connect with us. And we want to build on that. We are really looking for devotees, any of you who have interest, who really feel inspired that you want to make this happen in these 19, 20 countries, then please get in touch with me. Let me know. We really need some fired up devotees who can help us help this happen. Srila Prabhupada told, it's a very famous quote, some of you may have heard. Srila Prabhupada said, this is heard from another devotee, right? So it's second, it goes through a parsing. But Srila Prabhupada had a lot of appreciation for those who preach and who will expand the movement in the Middle East. To the extent Srila Prabhupada said, Srila Prabhupada will take the dust of their lotus feet. I mean, he said he'll take the dust of their feet. Of course, we don't want that to happen. You know, that's Srila Prabhupada's humility. That's why I hesitate to even use this phrase anyway. But I just want to highlight that's how much Srila Prabhupada wanted. But we don't want to take risk. We don't want over-enthusiasm that somebody goes and causes a problem. We want level-headed devotees who can ready to give their life for the next 10 years. This is not going to happen in 1 month or 1 year. This requires a 10-year effort to get people in Arabic and Islamic countries to take up Krishna consciousness. I stop here. I'm going to be here if there's any way you can help us in this mission. Sumit Prabhu is here. He can take down your details. I like to speak to you individually if you have interest in this topic. So please help us out. Thank you so much for coming. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.